Here is something that many TOEFL candidates don't expect. When they sit down for the listening section, their notes end up being useless. They write down too much, too little, or the wrong things entirely. Then the questions appear on screen, and they realize their notes don't help them find the answers. High-scoring candidates do things very differently. They know that note-taking in the TOEFL listening section is a skill, and they train it deliberately. They write less, but they write smarter. And when the questions come up, their notes point them straight to the correct answers. We've helped thousands of students prepare this way through our TOEFL packages. With clear steps and strategic preparation, they've turned confusion into confidence. In this video, you'll discover 10 note-taking tips that can help you score higher in TOEFL listening. By the end, you'll know the common type of information you should listen for, how to keep your notes organized, and how to use them more effectively when answering questions. Let's get started. Tip number 1 is to understand what note-taking is actually for in the TOEFL listening section. This might sound obvious, but many candidates don't think about it clearly before the test. This lack of clarity ultimately affects everything they write down. Your notes are not a transcript of the audio. You are not trying to write down everything you hear. Your notes exist for one purpose only, to help you answer the questions after the audio finishes. That means you need to write down the information that is most likely to appear in the questions, not every word the speaker says. When you go into the test with this mindset, your note-taking becomes more focused. You stop trying to keep up with every sentence, and you start listening for the information that actually matters. This shift alone can make a noticeable difference in how useful your notes feel when the questions appear. Think about it this way. If you spend your energy trying to capture every sentence, you are dividing your attention between listening and writing. That means you are not doing either one well. The best note takers in the test are not the fastest writers. They are the candidates who listen most carefully and write down only what is worth keeping. So before your next practice session, remind yourself of this purpose. Your pen is a support tool, not a recording device. The second tip is to know the 4 task types in the TOEFL listening section before test day. The section includes 4 types of tasks. Listen and choose a response. Listen to a conversation, listen to an announcement, and listen to an academic talk. Each one tests a different kind of listening. Not all of them require the same approach to notes. For the listen and choose a response task, you hear a short spoken question or statement. Then you choose the best reply from 4 written options. There is no time or need to take notes for this task. You simply listen, understand, and choose. For the listen to a conversation, listen to an announcement, and listen to an academic talk tasks, you will answer questions after the audio ends. These are the tasks where your notes can really help you. Know which task type you're working on so you can decide whether to pick up your pen at all. Understanding the 4 task types also helps you set the right expectations before each audio begins. When you know a conversation is coming, you know to listen for the relationship between the speakers and the purpose of the exchange. When you know an academic talk is coming, you prepare to listen for the main idea and supporting details. This kind of mental preparation before the audio starts can improve how well you listen and how useful your notes turn out to be. Let's move on to tip number 3. Listen first, write second. This is one of the most important habits you can develop for the listening section. However, it often goes against what many candidates do naturally. A lot of candidates start writing the moment they hear something. As a result, they miss the next sentence while they're still writing about the previous one. The audio does not stop or slow down for you. If you are focused on your pen, you are not fully focused on what is being said. The better approach is to listen actively for a moment, understand the idea, and then write a short note to capture it. You do not need to write in full sentences. A few keywords are enough. The goal is to record the idea quickly so you can return your full attention to listening. Train yourself to write less but faster, and you will find that your notes become much more useful. This habit takes practice to build. In your first few practice sessions, you may feel like you're not writing enough. You may feel that you will forget something important, but over time, you will find that your memory of the audio is actually stronger when you are listening fully than when you are constantly dividing your attention to write. The notes you take while fully listening are also more accurate because you have understood the idea before you write it down. Tip number 4 is to use abbreviations and symbols in your notes. This is what makes it possible to write quickly without losing your focus on the audio. You don't need a special system. Use whatever abbreviations feel natural to you, as long as you will understand them when you look back. For example, write this for with, this for because, and this for leads to or causes. You can also shorten long words, ENV for environment, info for information, and Q for question. The key is to practice these abbreviations before the test so they become natural. If you have to think about how to abbreviate a word during the test, you will lose focus. Spend time using your system when you practice with audio, and it will feel natural by test day. It also helps to create a small set of symbols for relationships between ideas. For example, use an upward arrow to mean increase or improve, a downward arrow to mean decrease or worsen, and a question mark to flag something you want to think about when the audio ends. These symbols are fast to write and easy to read back. When you look at your notes after the audio, you want to be able to understand them quickly. A simple, consistent system makes that possible. Now, here is an important point. Many TOEFL candidates think that knowing a few listening tips is enough to get a strong result, but it's not enough. To do well in TOEFL listening, you need to understand exactly how the different tasks work and which strategies you need to use to find the correct answers. That's exactly what we teach in our TOEFL packages. Our students get step-by-step guidance on how to approach the listening test effectively, so they feel confident and ready on test day. They learn how TOEFL listening questions are designed and which strategies they need to apply to answer them successfully. Our TOEFL packages include lessons for all tasks, sample answers, templates, practice tests, and much more. If you're serious about achieving the TOEFL score you need, click the link below to learn more. Tip number 5 is to write the main topic of the audio at the very top of your notes as soon as it becomes clear. This gives your note structure from the beginning. It also helps you stay oriented throughout the audio. For a conversation, the main topic might be something like broken laptop or library hours. For an announcement, it could be event cancellation or new campus policy. For an academic talk, it might be ocean currents or the history of jazz. When you have the main topic written clearly at the top, the rest of your notes connect to it. If you look down at your page and can't remember what was being said, the topic heading brings you back quickly. It also helps you when you read the questions, because you already have a clear idea of what the audio was about. There is another benefit to writing the topic first. It helps you filter what you write next. Once you know the main topic, you can judge whether a detail is closely related to it or not. Details that connect directly to the main topic are more likely to appear in the questions. Details that seem like background information or small side comments are less likely to be tested. Writing the topic first gives you a lens through which to evaluate everything else you hear. Let's talk about tip number 6. Note the speaker roles and attitudes in conversation tasks. The listen to a conversation task measures more than just your ability to understand facts. The questions often ask about the purpose of the conversation, the relationship between the speakers, or how a speaker feels about something. When you listen to a conversation, pay attention to what each speaker wants and how they feel. Is one speaker asking for help? Is the other speaker agreeing or disagreeing? Is someone unhappy, surprised, or relieved? You don't need to write long notes about this. A simple word or short phrase next to a speaker's initials is enough. For example, M, worried about deadline, or W, suggests library. These small notes can be very helpful when a question asks, what does the woman suggest the man do? Or why is the man concerned? Without any note about attitude or purpose, you may find yourself trying to remember a detail from a conversation that moved quickly. It is also worth noting when one speaker changes their opinion or agrees to something they were unsure about at first. These moments of shift or agreement often appear in questions. The test frequently asks why a speaker changes their mind, or what persuades them to act in a certain way. If you have written a small note at that moment, you have a direct reference point when the question comes up. A few words about attitude can be worth more than several sentences of factual notes. Another very useful tip is number 7. Identify the key idea in an announcement and write it down clearly. Announcements in the TOEFL Listening section are short. They typically cover a specific piece of information, such as a schedule change, a rule, or an upcoming event. Announcements are short, so there is usually one main message and 1 or 2 supporting details. Your notes for this task type don't need to be long. Write the main purpose of the announcement and any specific details that seem important, such as a date, a location, or an action the listener is expected to take. For example, you hear an announcement about a guest lecturer being moved to a different room. You can write lecture, insert a right-pointing arrow here, and then room change, and note the new room or building if it is mentioned. Announcement questions often ask what the announcement is about or what the listener should do. A short, focused note gives you what you need. One more thing to look out for in announcements is a reason. Announcements in the TOEFL often explain why something is happening, and the questions sometimes ask about that reason. For example, an announcement might say that the library will be closed because of a maintenance issue. The closure is the main fact, but the reason is also testable. When you hear a reason given, add a short note next to the main fact. This small addition can help you answer detailed questions quickly and accurately. By the way, if you want this channel to keep going, write yes in the comments, click like and subscribe. We only make videos that you actually want to watch. Tip number 8 is to track the structure of academic talks as you listen. The listen to an academic talk task involves a short talk on a topic from fields such as history, life science, business, or social science. The questions that follow test your understanding of the main idea, supporting details, the organization of the talk, and any inferences you can draw. Academic talks tend to follow a clear structure. The speaker usually introduces a main idea or concept, provides examples or evidence to support it, and sometimes introduces a contrasting point or a conclusion. When you take notes on a talk like this, try to capture the structure, not just isolated facts. A simple way to do this is to write the main concept at the top and then use short lines or arrows underneath to show how the supporting ideas connect to it. For example, the talk is about different types of memory. You can write memory, short-term versus long-term, and then a few words about each one. When the questions ask about the relationship between ideas or about the purpose of an example, your structured notes make it much easier to find the answer. Pay special attention to the language the speaker uses to signal organization. Phrases like, there are two main reasons, on the other hand, and as a result, are signals that a new idea or a contrasting point is coming. When you hear these phrases, be ready to add a new line to your notes. These signals often mark the moments that the questions are built around, so noticing them during the audio and capturing the content that follows them can help you answer several questions more accurately. The 9th tip is one that many candidates don't apply in practice, even when they know it in theory. Don't try to note everything in an academic talk. This is the task type where candidates are most likely to overwrite because the content feels detailed and everything seems important. But the questions after an academic talk are not testing every single detail. They focus on the main idea, the purpose of an example, the relationship between two ideas, or an inference based on what the speaker said. You do not need to write down every piece of information the speaker mentions. Focus your notes on the central concept and the key examples the speaker uses to explain it. You should also note any comparisons or contrasts the speaker makes. If the speaker introduces a new term and defines it, write that down. If the speaker gives a specific number or date as a supporting detail, you can note it briefly. But don't slow down your listening just to capture a small detail that may not come up in the questions at all. A good way to practice this is to do a practice listen and then review which details actually appeared in the questions. Most candidates who do this exercise are surprised to find that many of the things they wrote down were never tested. Over time, this awareness helps you develop a sharper sense of what is worth noting and what you can let pass. You start to trust your judgment more, and your notes become leaner and more useful as a result. Here is the final tip. Take a short moment to look over your notes before you start reading the questions. This is a small habit that can help you use your notes more effectively. When the audio ends and the questions appear, it is easy to start reading immediately and forget that you have notes at all. Before you do that, give your notes a quick look. Remind yourself of the main topic, the key ideas you captured, and anything you marked as important. This takes very little time, but it puts the content back in your mind clearly, just as you begin answering. Then, as you work through each question, refer back to your notes. Don't try to answer everything from memory. If a question asks about a specific detail, look at your notes first. If your notes don't have it, then rely on your memory. The two together are much stronger than memory alone. Good notes and a focused approach to the questions can make a real difference in how many answers you get right. This review step also helps you spot connections between questions. Sometimes 2 or 3 questions in a row relate to the same part of the audio. When you have looked over your notes before reading the questions, you already have a mental map of where different pieces of information came from. This means you can move from one question to the next more smoothly, without having to search your notes from the beginning each time. It is a small step, but the effect on your speed and confidence can be significant. That's it. These are 10 note-taking tips for TOEFL listening. If you want expert guidance for your TOEFL preparation, check out our TOEFL packages using the link below. Our packages include step-by-step guidance, sample answers, templates, practice tests, and other useful resources to help you feel confident on test day. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you're notified when the next video comes out. Also, share this video with your friends so they can improve their TOEFL score too. See you in the next video!